know, I need to put this over here. There we go. Now, it's not going to make me look better no matter which angle. All right. So, hello, friends. Oh, there's one person on here. I'm not sure who that is, but hello. I'm just getting set up, and as you probably know, I don't know what I'm doing on here. I'm just figuring this out. Oh, and they left. All right. Anyway, hello, friends. For the first few minutes here, if you're watching this not live, if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, still got about 2 minutes till actual scheduled live time. So I was going to, how do I get rid of that? That was there the whole time the other day I did this too. Get rid of that. Okay. How do I just share this link? Can I do that? Let's see. Sorry, bear with me for a moment for anyone who is watching. I should have obviously been more prepared here, but I'm also screw it. How do I just come on, man? Don't make this so complicated. Okay. Oh, dear Lord. I just want to copy this link for Lord. Oh, goodness sake. Anyway, thanks for your patience for anyone who may be on here already. Oh, good Lord, whatever. All right. So, what I'm doing right now is I'm going on Instagram. Hopefully, I'm logged in. And I am once again going to put one more thing. Can I not post something from my computer? Good Lord. All right. Here we go. Yeah. You guys know I'm new to all this. Ew, that looks terrible. Eesh. I really should have been better prepared, but sorry. And perp. Okay. Anyway, whatever. I'm doing that. It is 6 o'clock. So, hello, friends, and welcome to Talking Sports at Work. I am your host, Eric Persley, and I am dragging out every element of this introduction so I can keep doing this other stuff that I should have had done already. So, thank you for joining in, though. I'm just, once again, sharing all this, trying to get the word out there. Anyway, thank you for joining me. If there is anyone on here, I'm making a point to try not to pay attention to who or however many people. I don't even know if I can see actually who is on, but I'm going to make a point during the show to try not to pay attention to that. It's not like I'm going to have my heart broken if a lot of people don't show up. I mean, although I guess it will, be a little disappointing, but whatever. It's also, I get really nervous anytime I have any sort of performance or speech or anything. So if there's not that many people, then maybe I won't be as nervous. Anyway, today is Wednesday, January the 17th. Thank you for joining in live. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We've got a lot to talk about. First thing, I'm just gonna say I have been cooped up in a frozen house for the last 2.5 days with 3 kids. They're obviously not here right now. That's why it's quiet. And so, yeah, my head is kind of not where it normally should be or is or whatever. You guys know the premise of this show. Usually, what I'm doing is I am talking while I'm driving, and I tend to get a little bit of cabin fever and I get restless. So that's where my brain is right now. They're at my Mimi's house right now. Long enough for me to get some schoolwork done and do the show. So thank you for that, Mom and Mimi. I'm sure you guys are watching or will watch. Anyway, and if kids are watching right now, I love you guys. So we're just going to dive right in. I haven't had a chance to do a show since oh, good Lord, Siri's been listening to all of that. Haven't had a chance to do a show since the game Sunday, and man, did we have a lot happen. And obviously, the biggest stories there are what happened to the Cowboys and the Eagles, man. I mean, Good Lord. Now the Eagles, if you listen to the show, any of the shows I did last week, I was taking Tampa in that one. I thought the line was even at what it was like 3, I think. I thought that was too much. I mean, the Eagles were limping in literally with some of them. Their best receiver, who's our former best receiver, AJ Brown, was out. Jalen Hurts was hurt, pun intended there. And they had lost 5 of their last 6 games. They were falling apart. Yet they were favored by 3, and I get it. I mean, they're the better team. They are more talented than Tampa. They were just in the Super Bowl last year, but I mean, they were just clearly not in any sort of position to win a playoff game. And yeah, that's what happened. So we've got some stuff to talk about there. Also, the Cowboys, man, I don't know what to make of that one. I didn't see that coming, not at all. And good for the Packers, good for Jordan Love. Just a side note, man, I'm going to be pissed if Jordan Love turns out to be great because it's just so not fair. It is not fair that Green Bay gets to enjoy 30 years of Brett Favre, Hall of Famer. Go straight from that to Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer. And if Jordan Love turns out to be great too, it's just not right. I mean, they need to be able to experience at least a little bit of what the rest of the world goes through at some point. Many teams go through constantly during that period, never really having a for sure franchise quarterback. I mean, during the time that they had those 2 guys, we only had one. Well, if Steve McNair was our only guy who you could consider a true franchise quarterback. And it's just, but whatever. But at the same time, I'm happy for him. I like Jordan Love. I've always liked the Packers. I was actually a Packers fan before the Titans came. Before we had a team. As I think they came in the late '90s, and up to that point, I was a huge Brett Favre fan. So I've still got some love for the Packers, and good for them. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how far they can go. Unfortunately, they're about to run up against the buzzsaw that is the 49ers, but we can dive into that a little bit later as well. As far as the Cowboys, man, I don't know. I don't know, dude. I mean, it doesn't make sense. They have been, I don't even know how long it's been, how many years it's been that they have been definitively one of the best, most talented teams in the league. And still, during that entire run where Dak Prescott's been the quarterback, I think they've won 1 playoff game. And it just doesn't make sense. I don't know. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Eagles a little bit more. We'll talk about, do they need to move on from their coaches, each or one or both? We'll see. We'll talk about that. We've also got some big games coming up. I've got some betting tips because I do know my shit when it comes to that. And I've been having a little bit of success lately. I wish, honestly, I wish I would have had the guts to take Houston against Cleveland, but I didn't. But man, I am going to tell you, them +9. I know that Baltimore's great, but dude, Houston's for real. Anyway, so we'll talk about all that. We'll preview the Texans at Ravens, the Packers at 49ers, the Buccaneers at Lions, and the Chiefs at the Bills, which, gee, that's going to be a good one. Also, what else do I have here? I've got on my notes thoughts about coaching. That's something that you guys have heard me talk about for the last couple of weeks in every show because that's the position that we're in right now. That's the position that my Titans are in. We don't know what direction we're headed. We don't know who our coach is. We're having to hear everybody on national media talk about how stupid we are and how ridiculous it was that we fired Mike Vrabel. And that also goes to show, I think, just a little bit of how little attention the national media pays to Tennessee and always has. Because clearly, they continue to say these things, and clearly they haven't actually read, the article that was eye-opening for me. And it's out there. It's very prevalent now. What happened with his relationships with Amy Adams and how he was requesting or demanding full roster control and a lot of things that really and really it seemed like he kind of had one foot out the door anyway and wanted to go coach the Patriots. So after reading that and after all the stuff that's continued to come out, it's made more and more sense. Do I like it? No, still don't. That sucks. But this might be a great thing. If we can get one of these up and coming offensive minded guys, I keep going to Bobby Slowick. I know that, people might think that's silly. He's only been a coordinator 1 year, but dude, what he did with CJ Stroud was incredible. He comes directly from that old Mike Shanahan staff that was in Washington that now almost all of the NFL head coaches, or at least half of them, can trace their roots back to somebody on that coaching tree. And he comes directly from that staff. He's worked directly under Kyle Shanahan for his career, and then went with D'Amico Ryans once he left to go coach the Texans. I think that's there's some potential there. Plus, there's the obvious connection with him and Rand Carthon. Also, obviously, I love Ben Johnson, but I do feel like he's going to the Commanders. That just seems like the best match, the best situation there. So yeah, we can dive into that a little bit more as well. Maybe talk about. I've got on here some possible free agency stuff. I looked at a list of the top 50 free agents this offseason. Not a lot of big names there. Kirk Cousins, Chris Jones, I think maybe the two biggest ones, but what there are for, what's important for us, there are a lot of decent offensive linemen, guys that I think are worth plugging in, given a little bit of money to, given that we're going to have like $100 million in cap space. So, for those who are familiar with the show, you know that I normally start off, at least the podcast. I don't know if I've been doing it on the YouTube channel, but I start off the podcast with a little bit of TMI, just something that I normally would not be comfortable sharing with the world at large. And I did not come up with anything for today. I should have. You know what? I'll tell you, this is one that I've kind of been holding on to for a while. And I actually talked about this in one of my, or actually a couple of my AA meetings a couple of months ago when it first came up. I've noticed something about myself that I have always been, I don't like this. I hate that I am this way, but I've always been kind of envious. Like I feel like I'm sort of an envious, jealous person, and more than I would like to be. Like if I hear about somebody who I went to high school with who has now their careers taken off, and or somebody that I know, they just had their first novel published, the obvious correct response to that is, oh, good for them. But in my mind, I'm thinking, man, screw them. I think my kids are watching, so I'm going to watch my language. I love you guys. But that's what I'm thinking is, that's good for them, but I want that, and I think to some degree, a lot of people are like that, but I know that my ex-wife, Lydia, who actually may be watching right now as well, she was somebody who, she's like a social butterfly. She's the opposite of me in so many ways like that. She was always the type who would tell me stuff. She was all over social media all the time. I don't like messing with that. Now I'm having to for this podcast and show, but whatever. And she would always tell me, so and so's doing this now, or so and so's got this going on, and I'd be like, oh, good for them. And I'm like, yeah, in my mind. But then something that occurred to me was, not that long ago, few months ago, somebody who I really care about, got a promotion at his job, and it's a big deal, and he probably is making more money than I am now. And he's in a position of authority now. It's like, he's like at the top of the chain for that business, not like executive level, but for that branch. And you know what? I didn't have those feelings with him. And so it occurred to me that it's not necessarily that I'm just a terrible, over the top, envious person. It's that I don't give a shit about these, or I don't care about these other people really. But when it's somebody who I do care about, I don't have those feelings with them. Like I'm genuinely happy for him. And unfortunately, that is a short list of people who I genuinely care about. I wish that I could be more just genuine, generally loving the world and whatever, but I'm not. That's just not who I am. I do have a handful of people that mean a lot to me and that I love, and I have, a small select few friends and family and whatever. I'm good with that. Oh, yeah, that's fine. But anyway, when those people succeed, I don't feel that. I feel genuinely happy for them. And so that's what it is. It still sucks. I still wish that I didn't, feel that envy towards the other people, but it made me feel a little bit better about that, at least realizing that, it's not just that I am a terrible, envious, bitter person. It's that I feel that way if it's somebody I don't really care about. But if it's somebody I do care about, then yeah, I truly want what's best for them, even if it's something that I may have wanted or something that, puts them above me at a certain level. So that was good. Anyway, normally this would be the point in the podcast where I would take a little break, take a sip of coffee, hit my vape, collect my thoughts, but I can't do that on here, so I'm not going to. I am going to take a sip of coffee though, and it's just flashed up in my face. It's decaf, by the way. I almost had a cup of regular coffee, but I knew I would be kicking myself if I did that. Not just because I couldn't sleep tonight, but also because I'm always a little nervous about this kind of stuff anyway. And now I'm doing it live, so I don't have the ability to go back and correct errors. And so it's even more pressure. And well, I mean, it's not like it's not a lot of pressure. There aren't going to be that many people watching, but still, I told you guys, even if it's just a small handful of people, I get nervous talking. So anyway, we're going to move right on and dive into what I have first on my list. And I talked about it a little bit already. And if you see me looking up here, I've got the Pat McAfee show DVR'd from earlier today. That's what I get a lot of my inspiration from listening to sports radio and watching these shows. And I just end up responding to them in a lot of my segments, providing maybe the Tennessee perspective, the general educated fan perspective. But anyway, I've got that going up there, and I haven't had a lot of time to do any research or preparation for this because, as I mentioned, I've been at home with the kids by myself for the last 2.5 days. School was canceled, daycare was closed. Luckily, today is my day off of work, but we were closed yesterday, and we closed early on Monday. So, yeah, I am ill prepared for this, but yeah, it's never like it's that good. I think that's part of the magic of the show, right? I don't know what I'm doing. That's fine. And you guys get to watch me play with my nervous fidgeting toys. So the Cowboys, man, if you guys watched that, it was over. Like it was really over by the end of the first quarter. I mean, that game from start to finish was just as clear cut one team demolishing another one as you will ever see in an NFL playoff game. I mean, that was just humiliating. And every time the Packers would score again, the first thought that came to mind is they're getting rid of Mike McCarthy. And I don't know. I don't know exactly what he said, but Jerry Jones basically said something along the lines of, that McCarthy needed to win in the playoffs or that they might be looking elsewhere for another coach. Again, I don't know the words, but, from all the coverage on TV and the radio, that was the gist of what he said. McCarthy needed to have some success in the playoffs or they might be looking elsewhere for a new coach. They had the opposite of success. They were embarrassed. I still don't really know what to make of it because one, it was their defense that let them down the most. And this was supposed to be, the best. It was the best defense Dallas had in a long time. And Dan Quinn, is getting all this talk about he's going to get another opportunity as a head coach because he's done such a great job with the Dallas defense. And he was a pretty good coach for the Falcons anyway, when he was their head coach. But that was another thought is, I wonder if this is going to hurt his chances now with his defense just getting torn to pieces by this first-year starter and the youngest team in the NFL. I just heard earlier, too, that this was the youngest team to win a playoff game, like by average age, since this, like 1970 something or other. And this is, this super talented Dallas team that I even a little bit bought in this year. I've always been, a little bit of a doubter when it comes to the Cowboys. Excuse me. Especially back in the Romo days because he was just the most inconsistent player in the NFL. But this year, and even, even during the Zeke and Dak days, I still didn't think of them as, they'll be able to pull it off when it matters. But this year, I thought, okay, they've got it. They've got what they need now. CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in the game. They've got one of the best offensive lines. Dak Prescott's playing like an MVP. The running game is okay. It's not what it was with Zeke, but it's still good enough. And their defense is elite, maybe top 5 defense in the league. They can do it this year. And just watching them play, it felt different. But as everybody said, it didn't matter what they did in the regular season. All the questions about the Cowboys can only be answered in the playoffs. We know how good they can be. Can they make a run when it really matters? And the answer to that is no. Now, I'll also say to that, that's not just Mike McCarthy. I mean, that has been the case, the narrative, the truth about the Dallas Cowboys for the last decade plus. I mean, going back to Tony Romo. So it makes you wonder, I mean, how much blame does McCarthy really need? I mean, none of these players were probably still there the entire length of time this has been the case for them. the only constant has been Jerry Jones. Is it something he's doing where he's not putting together a team that can win in the playoffs? I don't know. But I will say that it was the case with Jason Garrett. It's the case with Mike McCarthy. This doesn't feel any different. The only thing that feels different is that I actually kind of bought in this year and thinking they might could do it. They looked different. It felt different, but clearly it was not. It's the same old Cowboys that it was under Garrett. And now is Jerry going to move on? And the obvious choice is Bill Belichick. I mean, that just makes all the sense in the world. You know, the greatest coach of all time, maybe. Now give him this super talented roster. Let's see what he can do. Maybe he can then go break the all-time wins record. I think he's 15 away. He can go prove that he can win a Super Bowl without Tom Brady, maybe. You know, that would be the obvious choice. There are a lot there. Now, it's not as simple as all that because how much power would he have? How much authority? You know, how much roster control? Would he be allowed? Would he demand? Would he expect? Who knows? And we know the Falcons really want him. He's interviewed with them already. He's said there's some mutual interest there. But my thinking when I saw the Cowboys and the Eagles both lose is, man, there are two new openings that are better than the Titans potentially, or that, you know, would be better than the Titans as far as, you know, attractive job openings for head coaching candidates. I don't know that they should fire Mike McCarthy. I honestly don't think that they should unless they feel like they can and will get Belichick and that it will definitely work, or, you know, sure as they can be. Otherwise, I don't think they should. I mean, who else are you going to get? That's you know, yeah. Jerry Jones is 81. Does he really want to start over with some young up and coming head coach? I mean, I don't think that they should. And I heard an interview with Troy Aikman earlier as well, and he doesn't think that it's likely to happen. And again, I think he said pretty much the same thing I did, which the only way that it would happen is for Belichick. Then the Eagles in very, very much a similar situation, man. One of the most talented rosters in the NFL. They went to the Super Bowl last year. What has happened to them over the last couple of months? I don't know. The locker room, you know, people talk about, has he lost the locker room? You know, that's a term that you almost whisper because it is the death knell for a coach. But it seemed, you know, I don't know that that's the case. I haven't heard anybody come outright, or at least anybody from the organization, and say that. But something's wrong. Um, and it's been all along. I've brought it up several times on the show. I wonder how much credit does Nick Sirianni deserve? Because the Eagles have undoubtedly been one of the best teams in the league under his, you know, during his time there. But he's never talked about as one of the best coaches in the league. And I don't know if that's just because he's not getting credit because their roster's so talented, or maybe he's just not really that great of a coach, but he's just doing, you know, what he should do with all this talent. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't study the Eagles that much. I honestly hate the Eagles because it's not their fault. They did the right thing, but you know, they took our best wide receiver and we got nothing essentially for him. I'm not going to go down that road. That'll just get me rambling again about John Robinson. But man, good Lord. I will say, though, that it made me a little bit happy to hear that there are problems now with A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. I just heard this on the radio yesterday. He didn't play in that game Sunday or Saturday, whenever it was. No, Monday. But he was apparently at a fight in Atlantic City or something that weekend. So he's going to Atlantic City for a fight and being out in public, but he's not healthy enough to play in the game. That's just a bad look, man. And he's, you know, a little bit of a diva and he's been having some issues. And honestly, I still don't feel, you know, like John Robinson should feel vindicated. I certainly don't as a Titans fan, but it just made you feel like, okay, maybe that was part of the trade. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I was going to go off on a tangent. But anyway, that's why I don't like the Eagles, because they have A.J. Brown. They took him from us. We you know, we gave them Kevin Byard as well. And so seeing them lose had just a little bit of sweetness to it for me, which is weird because I used to like the Eagles. I always used to root for them when Andy Reid was their coach. He's always been my favorite non-Titans coach, even going back to his days with Brett Favre and the Packers. Anyway, but the conversation is the same for the Eagles. What's wrong? I don't know. Now, it was more unexpected, more of a surprise when the Cowboys lost and the way they lost. The Eagles, even though they were favorites in that game, they probably might not should have been. Um, would Belichick be the answer there? Now, I was watching something earlier today during the hour that I had to try to watch stuff and do some prepping for this show. Um, and it had Jeff. Oh, it was Get Up. I was watching Get Up. And Jeff Saturday was on there, and he said absolutely not. Belichick and the Eagles do not make any sense. And I tend to listen when Jeff Saturday talks. I like him. He's one of my favorite guys, even though he was a former Colt. Um, but he was saying that it just doesn't make sense, and it's because of the same thing. How much roster control would he demand, would he expect, would he need? Because Jeff Lurie, and is it Roseman, or they're probably not going to be willing to give him full authority and full control of the roster. And honestly, I don't think they should. My thinking is, I think Bill should go into whatever situation he's going into thinking, I'm going to be the coach. I will maybe want some input, but I don't need to be the GM too. Let me go somewhere where they already have a good GM, where they already have some talent in place. Let me just coach. Let me get this record. Let me get this one more Super Bowl, and that's it. I feel like that might be his attitude. Now, obviously, I don't know Belichick, but it feels to me like maybe that should be. Maybe he shouldn't go into it, and clearly it doesn't work. He made it work at times for 20 years. But he was the only person in football who was able to actually do both jobs effectively during that run. And over the last several years, he has not done a good job at being the GM. So I feel like, maybe wherever he goes, he should just be the coach and be good with that. And if that's the case, the Eagles, man, make all the sense in the world. Either one of those, I think, is the right choice for Bill Belichick. But I honestly hope that, or part of me, I guess, hopes that they stick with their guys, both teams, because two more openings, like I said, that would be more attractive than the Titans. Right now, if neither of those jobs open up, it feels like Belichick will go to the Falcons. That's cool. That makes sense. They're going to need to get a quarterback. I don't know what their plan is there, but good luck. The Falcons are really as far away from here as the Titans. So, good. Hopefully it works out for them. I still think the Chargers and Jim Harbaugh, that's just that's where that's going. And I've kind of rolled on over into another segment here. But going on into the coaching, because this is a good segue, it feels like, for the coaching thoughts. I still think Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, that should just be, it's not a done deal, obviously, but I don't know how long they have to wait or whatever, but it feels like that needs to happen. I know he has interviewed with the Falcons as well, and if there is somebody that maybe they could bring in and draft a quarterback there at 7, or trade it, or where are they? No, we're at 7. They're at somewhere. He would be the guy you would want working with that young quarterback, but there's definitely no guarantee that they're going to get somebody, and they need. I don't know why everybody's talking about the Falcons roster as if it's so good. That hasn't made sense to me for a while. I never believed in Arthur Smith as a head coach. I honestly thought he was overrated and got too much credit as a coordinator. I did not think he deserved to be a head coach, and he's also another one of these guys, which some of you probably have heard me talk about, the rampant nepotism in the NFL, who has just been handed every opportunity he's ever gotten. His father's the CEO of some big corporation, I don't remember, but maybe there's just a little animosity there that I feel. But even without that, I just don't think he was ever that good. I don't think he deserved to be a head coach, and clearly didn't do a good job. But I also don't think there's a ton of talent on that roster. They've got some guys at the skill positions on offense, but it feels like that's about it. Um, I mean, what else do they have? And everybody, I keep hearing people on TV talk about, Falcons would be a good opportunity for so and so because, they're just, they've got a lot of talent. They just need a quarterback. Like, that's just nothing. For those of you who don't know, that's not nothing. You need a quarterback to be successful in this league. So don't just pass that off as if, they're just a quarterback away. So are the Steelers, by the way. And they barely snuck into the playoffs because they've got one of the best head coaches and one of the best coaches in football who they're also, now unhappy with. But yeah, I don't see the Falcons as being that attractive as of an option at all. They've got some good skill players, but that's it. I mean, the rest of their roster is either or getting older or yeah. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. The Raiders, I've said that Antonio Pierce should be their guy. That shouldn't even be a thing. The Commanders, I think, is the second most attractive opening. I think that's where Ben Johnson should go and will end up. If he doesn't, I hope we get him at the Titans, but I think that just makes sense. The Seahawks, I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe Dan Quinn. I think Mike Vrabel might end up there, honestly. I think he will either end up with the Seahawks or the Panthers or not getting a job this cycle. And honestly, I would not be shocked if he doesn't. I think the national media would be, but just because they haven't, as I said earlier, paid attention to anything in Tennessee, as they never do with small markets. And they don't really know that there was a little bit of justification behind this firing. There was more to it than just the football stuff and just the stuff on the surface. Owners, though, the people who will be making these hirings, they do pay attention to that stuff. And they will know that somebody pulling my okay, no. They will know that this guy, his relationship with his owner went really sour. And do we want that? He was butting heads with the GM, John Robinson, got him fired. They brought in a new guy. He didn't want him. He wanted his guy, so he starts butting heads with him a little bit. But having conflict with the owner. Owners don't want that kind of guy. So I don't know. We'll see. Obviously the Patriots, he's not getting that job. So I think either Vrabel will end up having to settle for the Panthers job, or maybe the Seahawks like him, or I just wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't get a job at all this cycle. We'll see. And I still don't feel any animosity. I still love the guy. I still hate that this happened, but I get it more after hearing and reading the things that I have about what happened and what went wrong there. So anyway, I'll recap really quickly. I've got my coach opening rankings right now. Chargers 1, Commanders, Seahawks. I had the Patriots at 4. So Titans 4, Raiders 5, Falcons 6, Panthers 7. I think that's what makes sense. And then I've got the wild cards listed down here at the bottom as the Eagles, Cowboys, and Steelers. Again, I think the Steelers it would be absurd for them to fire Mike Tomlin, but stranger things. I mean, hell, people thought would be absurd for Mike Vrabel to be fired, and you see that happen. I think though, if the Eagles or the Cowboys are going to make a move, I wonder why they haven't done it yet. Their games. It's been 2 days since the Eagles game. It's been 3 or 4 days since the Cowboys game. I don't know what they would be waiting for, but I know that neither organization has either fired their coach or come out with a statement saying, no, we're sticking with him and being supportive. It feels like they're both kind of straddling the fence about what do we do now. I don't know how long they're going to wait, but if they're going to make a move, they shouldn't wait too much longer. But again, those are 2 very attractive openings, and they're not going to have a problem, bringing in talent. But they don't want to wait too long and let some of these guys get away. Now, diving into the upcoming slate. Let's see. I've been talking for 32, almost 33 minutes. I've got to go get my kids before it's too late. Again, if you're watching this, I love you, and thank you, Mom, for watching them. So we've got some games this weekend. I'm going to take these in. I think this is the order they're going to be happening on Saturday. We've got, Houston at Baltimore. Baltimore's currently a 9-point favorite. Now, just a disclaimer, I'm just giving you my off-the-top thoughts on these. Don't take this as really expert betting advice. I'm just a somewhat educated fan who does a sports podcast on the side. I don't make any money off of this. I'm definitely not quitting my day job anytime soon. So just, take whatever I say as entertainment. And, if you want to use my advice, great. I've had some success, but, not always, definitely. If I was that good, I would not be, working my real job that I'm currently working, of course. Texans at Ravens, 9 points for Baltimore. I said preseason. I don't know why more people aren't talking about Baltimore as being maybe the best team in the AFC. It felt like the only talk about the Ravens this offseason was about the Lamar contract thing and about their new offensive coordinator. But they added, it felt like what they were really missing was a piece or two on defense, but especially some more weapons in the passing game. They added Odell Beckham. They drafted Zay Flowers, which that's worked out perfectly for them. They've got a healthy Rashad Bateman. I think he's still healthy. But anyway, coming into the season, they had all those things that they were lacking before. And we see now, the Ravens look like the best team in the AFC. 9 points, I do feel like I've seen the Texans play a few times now this year. And I keep kind of thinking, okay, eventually this team that was over the last, up until this year, for 2 or 3 years, the worst team in football, the least talented roster in the league. Year before last, and probably again last year. Eventually, they're going to come back down to earth, right? They have not. And CJ Stroud, man, is the real deal. And it does kind of hurt. And there's that envy thing come up a little bit, knowing that going into the draft day, all the talk was the Texans don't really like either of these quarterbacks. And they're going to take a defensive player. And everybody was projecting that the Titans would trade up to 3 and take CJ Stroud. So that sucks a little bit. But we never really had a shot at him. Obviously, it didn't happen that way, and it was never a possibility. But anyway, this dude is for real. He is so much better than even I thought he was going to be. And I thought he was the safest pick of the quarterbacks. I felt like his ceiling was the lowest. Sorry, getting some text here. I guess she's not. Anyway, I felt like he was the safest. This guy is at worst going to be a pretty good starting quarterback, but I didn't think he would be out of the gates a superstar. But man, he is. And their defense with DeMeco Ryans, what he has done, they can get after the quarterback. They are better at defending the pass, and they're better just overall on defense than they should be. And yeah, I feel like 9 is a lot. But yeah, I mean, if I'm not going to bet on that game, just first of all, I don't like betting spreads anyway. If I do, I always usually do an alternate spread, with part of a parlay or something. I don't like just betting, Texans +9 at -110 or something. I rarely do that. But anyway, if I were to just make a simple bet on that game, I probably would take Houston and points. The total is 43.5. I think that it'll be over that just because Houston can score. I know Baltimore's defense is elite. Nobody seems to be able to stop CJ Stroud. They just can't. So I think Houston will be able to score. Baltimore will probably control the game and end up winning, but I don't think they're going to run away with it by any stretch. Moving on to the Packers at the 49ers, which strangely enough also has a 9-point spread. That one, I don't know. It's almost like with the Packers, they're so young that they don't know enough to be intimidated by these teams that are supposed to be better. So going into that one, I mean, I thought Dallas was going to pretty much handle them. And it was the complete opposite. You would have thought that, one had been the success that the Cowboys had been and the division winner, and the other was, just barely getting in as a 7 seed. So I don't know, but the 49ers have been consistently all year, it seems like, the best team in the league. They had that little 3-game skid there for a while, and obviously they haven't been perfect, but I mean, that team is just so stacked. Kyle Shanahan may be the best coach in the NFL, especially now that Bill Belichick is not currently coaching. Kyle Shanahan really might be the best coach in football. And they're just stacked at everywhere. It seems like there are really no holes on that roster. On offense, they are unbelievable. They can do everything. They've got the receivers, they've got the tight end, they've got the offensive line, they've obviously got the superstar running back, and a tremendous orchestrator who you either seem to love or hate, and everybody's opinions vary on Brock Purdy. I think he is a great quarterback for them. I wouldn't call him a system quarterback or a game manager necessarily, because those just have negative connotations. But essentially, that's kind of what he is. He's a guy who his skill set just fits perfectly with what they want to do. Does that make him a game manager? No, it makes him an excellent quarterback for this offense. So, anyway, yeah, they're just stacked. And then the defense is obviously unbelievable. I would say if I were to bet on that one, I'd probably take the 49ers, even with the 9. The spread's 50, or the total's 50 and a half. I don't know about that one. I don't think I would even mess with that. Tampa at Detroit. Detroit, it seemed like everybody's pick to be upset in the first round, and that did not work out. I was not picking them. I actually won on them. I thought they were going to beat the Rams. Now they're a 6.5 point favorite at home against Tampa. Tampa's been better than everybody expected. They also seem to be the team that figured out how to beat the Eagles, by the way, which is apparently just blitz the ever living hell out of them. Just come after them, just bring everybody. That seems to be the formula to beat the Eagles. Now, would it have been a different story if AJ Brown had been healthy? Probably, but apparently, Todd Bowles has always, I felt like, just not maybe gotten enough credit for the defensive mind that he is. I don't know how great he is as a head coach, but just as a defensive coach, that dude is excellent, and his whole MO is, bring the pressure. That's what he did against Philadelphia, and man, it worked. So. But I don't think I think the Lions are just a better team, and I think they're gonna win. I would take them with 6.5. The total of 48.5 feels like that's a little high because Tampa offense isn't great, but again, I don't know if I'd do anything with that. Chiefs at Bills. Now that one's gonna be fun, man. The Chiefs are actually a 3-point underdog going into this one. And I'm gonna wrap it up pretty soon. This is actually the last thing I think I have. I'm not gonna dive into that free agency stuff because there's not a lot there. And plus, maybe I'll talk about it on the podcast. The Chiefs and the Bills. Bills 3-point favorites at home. I don't know about that, man. The Chiefs, everybody's been talking about all year. Their biggest problem is at receiver. They don't have a secondary weapon or anybody that Mahomes can rely on outside of Kelsey. Rashee Rice has emerged as that dude. And he ended up with, I don't know what his stats were for that playoff game against who were they playing? The Dolphins, but man, he was unbelievable. He looked like the guy they've been waiting for him to be, and he has just consistently all year. He's a rookie, and he has developed in the way you would hope he would. And I think now they have found that guy that he can rely on, other than Travis Kelsey. Their defense is, not top 5, but top 10. Spagnuolo knows Buffalo. He's beaten them, and confused Josh Allen already in the playoffs. And they played obviously one of the best playoff games of all time a couple of years ago. I think this one's going to be another great game. I'm going to take the Chiefs, though. And defending champions, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes. It feels like they've got a receiver who has finally emerged. I'm taking the Chiefs. I wouldn't be disappointed, though, if the Bills won. If I had money on it, I guess I would be. But it'd be good for them. It'd be good. I like Josh Allen. It seems like everybody's opinions of him have varied greatly. Been like a friggin' EKG machine all year. People either love him. He's on the cover of Madden. He's one of the best in the league, or they can't win with Josh Allen. And it's been like, I'll hear some of the same people over the course of the season saying both of those things over the course of a few weeks. It's like, which is it? I have said all along, yeah, Josh Allen, he's going to turn the ball over some, but dude, he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And to say that Buffalo can't win a Super Bowl with him is just absurd. That goes to show that's a fan that says that, or a media member who says that, is either A, just ignorant, or B, is maybe a Packers fan who doesn't know what it's like to have to go through life without a quarterback for a significant period. The Colts were also like that for a while, but they've learned what it's like painfully over the last few years, because they went from Peyton Manning for all those years to straight to Andrew Luck, but then Luck unexpectedly retired, and that's a whole other thing. But anyway, it is 6:40. I didn't have a clock on this. I didn't really know how long I was going to talk. I kind of just let it go as long as I'm going to. But I think that's it for today. Itchy, come here, buddy. Come here. You want to say hi? Thanks to everyone who's listening. I love all of you. You guys are tremendous. You make me smile, make me feel like what I'm saying, what I'm doing is actually worth listening to, and that's very good. That's therapeutic for me, just to be able to do this. It's been awesome. And Itchy loves you guys too. I'm going to post this on you. I'm still, you guys know, I don't know what I'm doing, but the experience is good. If you are watching this on YouTube later, great. If you're watching it live, I love you. You're awesome. And I will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.